Take a look from the composer's point of view. Is high technology depersonalizing music, or instead is music serving to humanize the machine? In the late 1950s, Max Matthews discovered how a computer could be used as a musical instrument. Working at AT&T's Bell Laboratories, he realized that the same programs he was using to study telephones could be used to make music. Truly one of the fathers of computer music, Max has helped to set up such world-renowned electronic music laboratories as Karma at Stanford University and IRCAM at the Pompidou Center in Paris.
That was the first piece ever synthesized on a computer. It was composed in 1958 by a very brave psychologist, Newman Gutman, and it sounds absolutely terrible. Before the vibrations have died away in your ear, I want to play you a recent piece to show you that computers can make beautiful music. In this piece, this is a selection from the Queen of the Night, and the important thing to remember in listening to this piece is that the soprano is a computer. That piece was synthesized in 1982 at IRCAM by Xavier Rodet, and you can see how far computer music has come in 20 years in terms of how much better the sounds are and how much more interesting things like human voices we can now synthesize on the computer.
Sound is a series of vibrations transmitted by air pressure. A computer hooked up to an amplifier and speaker can create sound merely by switching on and off, causing a vibration in the form of an electrical current. If these on-off vibrations are frequent enough, they sound like musical notes. For example, the note A above middle C is heard when there are 440 vibrations per second. 440 then is the frequency for that note. Higher frequencies make higher sounds. Lower frequencies make lower sounds. But computer music made this way can sound flat and thin. This is because the waveform created by a computer's on-off switching is square. In order to capture the true essence of an instrument or voice, a computer must recreate complex waveforms. It does this by measuring the waveforms and expressing them in the form of numbers. Once stored in the computer's memory, the numbers can be combined and manipulated. Then these numbers are converted from digital information into analog sounds, any and all sounds in the world.
I'm not sure I'd want to make any sound, but it always comes down to the choice, the composer's choice. So I still write music for string quartets and for orchestras, and I'm particularly interested in combining live musicians playing real acoustic instruments with these types of sounds, because I think the personal interaction is so important. That's why my most recent projects, the past two in fact, have been with dancers. I find it very exciting to have human interaction and my responding to the human element with this instrument. That's what excites me.
Popular electronic music using keyboard synthesizers like the synthesizer is so widespread now that a new wave of attention is being focused on the interaction between technology and musical expression.
You know, half of Michael Jackson's album was synclavier. So now you can do things with this. For instance, you can speed things up and not change the pitch at all. Go ahead and crank up a little bit. Or slow them down. And you'll never change the pitch. You can then speed it up. So if you're not a very good keyboard player, you can play in real slow and correct your rhythms for you, or play in one note of the chord, then another note of the chord, and overdub and so forth, and then speed the thing up and sound like, you know, this fantastic keyboard player. Now, okay, here's the sound that's on Beat It right now. I'm going to take and change that. So once again, you don't ever have to play it again. Once you get it down on tape or on the sequencer is what it boils down to. It's a digital recorder in there. You don't ever have to play it again. You don't even have to play it, really. You can type it in at the terminal if you want to, if you're not a keyboard player. Or if you're, you know, if you're a guitar player, you can also play it with the guitar. It does the same thing. Same thing as the keyboard. So it's really, really a great musical instrument as far as musicians go.
Synthesizers give composers a new degree of power over their medium. One of the latest advances is called digital sampling.
Sampling is nothing more than digital recording. And what they do is they'll record a sound in, and then the computer will figure out how to change the samples, if you're familiar with digital recording at all, to get your different octaves and so forth, and you can actually play an instrument all over the keyboard, or a voice, or anything else. Let's see here. Oh, let's have a little fun here. I'm going to enter a sub-catalog if you're familiar with computers at all here. You can also just create out-and-out outlandish effects, which helps sell records, of course.
Go record a car wreck down here on Beechwood Street.
Right? And play it like a musical instrument.
The synthesizer has become an invaluable time-saving device for composers.
Once you get all your parts in the recorder and that, you can bring them over into music printing. Here. This is the piece that was on the recorder. Prints it on the screen for you, first of all. So you can do your music in the morning and get your chart over lunch, you know, and come back, and then if you come back and you don't like what you did, you can change it. And you know, I challenge anybody to have that kind of handwriting. I just print out a couple staves, but you can pass this around the room and take a look at it and make sure.
I think, though, that one of the dangers about using too many automated music machines is that you can get into a situation where you just push a button and the song comes out. Whereas you're so much closer to the music in a way if you're working with every tone. You know, and that's why I think that it's really important to be able to play an instrument like guitar or to be able to sing or something like that, because then it's so direct, it's so natural. Computers have enormous potential, but then again, there's something about the pleasure of putting my fingers on a guitar and playing a guitar that nothing else can duplicate. So I think it's good to have both.
Stanley Jordan is a jazz musician whose specialty is a two-handed guitar technique called hammering on.
You can play a part with just your left hand. You can play with just your right hand. Or you can play with both hands.
At Princeton University, he studied digital music composition on a mainframe computer with Paul Lansky and Milton Babbitt. Now, he's busy at home teaching his personal computer how to help him with the music for his second album.
Well, the computer helps me in a variety of ways. What we're going to be looking at here is the very beginnings of a music system for the Commodore 64. And I figure it'll take me about a year to get it to do all the things I want it to do. Well, in some ways I'm limited. I do miss the power of the big computer. But what amazes me is how much the Commodore 64 can do. And so I've kind of challenged myself to see what I can get this to come up with.
Stanley has programmed the computer to generate random sequences of tones for him. But first, he tells it what chord and the number of notes he wants it to play.
So what you heard there are actually two voices playing. One voice is just holding down the root, because the purpose of this exercise is for practicing hearing different harmonies. And so I've got this one voice just holding the root, and then the other voice just plays a random sequence using the notes of the chord. So if I want to do that same chord with 33 tones, then I can just change that one number. If I want the pitch to be higher, I can just ask it. I've got this quantity I call octave 1. What is it? It's 3. That's the octave below middle C. I can bring everything up an octave by changing that to 4. And then I go back and I do it again. C major 7, 33 tones. That's up higher. Okay, what we're going to see is a demonstration of one way you can use a computer for ear training quiz. What I'm going to do is tell it a type of chord to use, and then it's going to use that same random program you saw. But what it will do is it'll wait for me to hit a key. And when I hit a key, it will play a certain number of notes. And then I have to sing it back or play it on the guitar or whatever. So the chord will be C minor 7 flat 5. So every time I hit the key, it's going to play 4 notes. So whatever it plays, I've got to play it here. I can make it a little bit more complicated, and I can say, give me a C Dorian scale. So now I'm dealing with a 7-note scale instead of a 5-note scale. Sometimes I have to think about it, but I'd rather think about it and then get it right than to just play something and get it wrong, because I don't even want to know what it's like to get it wrong. Hopefully I can avoid that. Not. Right. When you're composing, it's kind of a difficult activity because you're reaching so deep into your feelings to figure out how to express those feelings in sound. So I was looking for ways of getting at feelings that I just couldn't express with any other instruments. I hear this music and I don't know how to make the music because it doesn't even sound like traditional instruments, you know, let alone traditional harmonies, rhythms, and all that. So I really got interested in computers because I figured that with computers, eventually, someday, I'll be able to make the music I hear in my head.
Whether it's by making new sounds, saving time, or providing ear training and practice, there is no doubt that computer music machines help musicians and composers. But what about those of us who can neither play an instrument nor program a computer? Well, an increasing range of computer music software is commercially available for home music education. There is software designed for all different levels of instruction on the fundamentals of music. The packages employ various graphic displays, such as piano keys or musical notation. One example, called the Music Construction Set, is a sort of a musical video game. A joystick controls a movable hand that picks up notes or other musical symbols and places them on 2 staves. That allows the user to start composing immediately. The computer stores and plays back the composition. It's been predicted that the personal computer will soon replace the piano as the primary instrument on which young children learn music. Still, there are those who would rather listen than play, and thanks to the digital technology of compact audio discs, the listening is getting better and better. Since the days of Thomas Edison's first phonograph, sound reproduction has worked on the principle of analog recording, meaning that the grooves of a record or the magnetic field of a tape was the physical representation analogous to the sound waves. But that's where digital recording and compact discs are different from traditional records and tapes, because like the computers we saw earlier in the show, the information on the compact discs or CDs is stored in the form of binary digits. These bits have been encoded into the disc as tiny engraved pits. A thin laser beam shines through the disc's protective plastic coating to read the digital code, which is then converted back to the analog signal.